Well, we're April the 29th, the day after the Biden non-State of the Union address, and I thought I'd make a few comments about his address and some of his proposals, but I want to kind of take a slightly different angle on it than that may even be a little bit more concerning than what you would think at first glance. And basically is the fundamental viability of it in terms of, okay, the taxes. He's trying to claim this is a revenue neutral approach in which people the taxes will be paid for. But look at the proposals, and my opinion is I don't really believe these proposals will actually succeed in raising the level of revenue that he really is talking about. For one thing, when you look at for instance, the increase in taxes on the top earners. Okay, right now that's 37% is the top tax rate, which was the rate at which that was coming out of the Trump tax cuts. And I would point out that people keep forgetting the fact that the bulk of the Trump tax cuts in terms of percentages were really directed more toward lower income people than the top earners. It wasn't really so much a rich tax cut as it was actually a thing that gave relief all the way down. Now, but here's the deal. Okay, he's going to put that back to 39.6%, which is where it was under Obama. But that will basically increase the revenues from those people by 7%. And after all, that's not near enough to pay for the level of spending. He's talking about an increase in spending that would probably average out something on the order of magnitude of the defense budget on top of everything else we're spending right now. So the idea that is going to be paid for by these taxes. The other part that's being thrown out a lot, the corporate tax rates, which are in flux, and right now they haven't even gotten Joe Manchin's buy-off on his 28% rate. He's fighting for nothing above 25. So, and again, the actual corporate taxes are really not necessarily all that high of a percent of the total revenues that the government gets anyhow. And I doubt these changes are going to really be adequate to pay for this spending. Then you get into capital gains. And the history is that capital gains cuts actually increase revenue because people trade more, it creates more market activity, and people are more willing to sell and take the profit. If you have the capital gain rate too high, you may end up in a situation where a lot of people simply defer sales. And in that case, you'll have a more stagnant market that'll be less liquid on the one hand and will actually produce less revenue for the government. That is an open question, as to whether it really will. In previous cases, there's been evidence that in fact it didn't. So ultimately, we have a budget-busting set of proposals that will actually run the deficit up in reality, if in fact they stick to the rule that nobody earning under $400,000 a year will actually have a tax increase. Of course, the question is, does that mean that a single individual can earn up to $400,000 a year and they'll be taxed at the same rate they were under the current law? Or is that for a married couple? Or for a family of four? I mean, exactly who? See, that's an ambiguity. They just throws this generality out, and nobody has really pressed them on the details, because the press, of course, isn't really doing much good at actually interrogating him, as you've noticed. So it's really up in the air. Obviously, if you're at a lower, more typical income levels that most people are in, I think that it's probably true you won't get a tax increase, and maybe if you have children or something, he may increase some credits or something. But all in all, I think you're going to have a sort of an unaffordable set of proposals that may not generate anything that is good as it's being portrayed as. And the other things that I have questions about are things such as this free community college proposal. Okay, I mean, community college, is relatively inexpensive compared to, state universities and let alone private schools. And one has to realize that a lot of the people that actually go to community college are still living at home. That's kind of the idea. You're still in the community, so you, just like in high school, and now you're going to the community college rather than to high school. And you're probably driving there maybe instead of riding on a bus. But other than that, you're pretty much, just like an extra 2 years of high school in terms of behavior. Well, what is there? Do the community colleges have the staff and the programs to actually take a big influx of additional students, or will students defer going to state universities and instead go to community college for the first 2 years more than they would normally? This is already an option that a lot of people have taken because of economics and admission standards and so forth, And so this all leads to some interesting questions. If the community college is free, it's going to be a lot easier for people to say, well, maybe we'll just go to community college for the first 2 years and only, transfer to the state university for the last two. And you can get most of those early credits out of the way. And I'm just kind of wondering what the impact that's going to have on the whole system. It may not be as simple as he says, and it would make sense to me more to probably put VOTEC training in there if you're going to do it. Because if you're dealing with the people, at least that currently are not going to the university level, a lot of these people probably would be better served getting into some sort of a VOTEC program than they would be getting into a more of an academic track program for the most part. And they probably would go to jobs in which they would actually earn a lot more income and therefore pay more taxes to support his programs. So, all in all, I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of the ideas that are sort of being tossed around, and a lot, this whole pre-K stuff. I don't know. I felt personally I had the benefit of not having to put up with any of that nonsense and didn't have to go to school until I was entering the first grade at the age of 6. So personally, I thought that was kind of a better thing, but I understand if it's a kind of an enhanced daycare where they actually try to teach some people, I guess, the alphabet and the basic numbers and a few things like that, maybe some basic reading skills or something, do that a little earlier. I don't know how, that this is all kind of, government babysitting, in my opinion. Probably a lot of people will be for that. But again, you get into the question of the affordability of all these projects, and that's the thing I'm kind of a little skeptical about, particularly because I don't think his tax plan that he's putting out is really going to raise the kind of revenues he's talking about. This is all a classic bait and switch, which is kind of along the lines of, here are all the goodies and somebody else will pay for them for you. So at any rate, he's off to his normal stuff, and we'll see what happens. But I thought that's a different insight on this, that in reality, I don't think he's actually proposed adequate taxes to support it. The other thing I'd also point out that, of course, the CBO is going to use a static model scoring system. So they'll presumably assume that the same stock transactions will occur regardless of whether or not these big increases occur or not, which will probably produce a false set of numbers that will be Congress will use as the way to sell the program, only to find out that when you actually implement it, it's not going to turn out to be at all what was advertised. Well, anyway, if you like these videos, remember to subscribe. Give me a like, because apparently that helps the algorithm trigger other people to see the videos. And also, I have a list below of my social media accounts. You can follow me on Twitter, which I can make more frequent updates than I do videos, and they might be interesting. And you can subscribe to the YouTube. And also, I have been starting to post a few of these on Rumble. The Rumble, the ones that they've approved have gotten some fairly good views lately on some of them. On the other hand, they tend to sit around for quite a while and not be as timely to actually get monetized. So, at any rate, but you can find them over there too. At any rate, so that's it for today.